Greetings from the UK. My name is Anthony Paul Cooper, known as Ant Cooper, and I recently defended my dissertation with the University of Turku, which was entitled Exploring the Use of Twitter Data to Better Understand Church Attendance. And it was a first of its kind type of dissertation in the field of digital theology within computer science, looking at social media data and how that might help improve data quality and research findings in more conventional, more traditional studies of church attendance, with a focus in my particular thesis on the UK, but with implications for studies taking place in a range of different locations. So the dissertation that I recently defended comprised 5 studies in total. And these studies were looking at a range of topics, all related to church-related tweets posted from the City of London within the UK. And the types of research questions that I was looking at included: what topics are people discussing on Twitter in tweets that are related to church? Is there a relationship between the sentiment or the positivity or negativity of those tweets and the presence of church growth in the location from which those tweets were posted? Is it possible to automate some of this qualitative analysis using machine learning? Is it possible to identify church locations using this data? And more importantly, is it possible to identify church locations which were previously excluded from church attendance studies? And finally, responding to the global pandemic of COVID-19, how have churches adapted to this pandemic by adopting new technology? And my findings were fairly varied, but importantly, I found that it was possible to identify a relationship between the sentiment of church-related tweets and the presence of church growth, which might indicate the potential to automate predictive analysis around the presence or absence of church growth. I found that it was possible to locate previously undocumented churches from previous studies, and generated a wealth of evidence around how churches are starting to adopt technology following the pandemic. This understanding now that social media data, and in this case in particular Twitter data, can be of real value to academics doing research on church attendance and can help them to reduce undercounting and increase the accuracy and reliability of their findings. There's also some real-world implications around the study looking into COVID-19 and the church's response, particularly related to the fact that there's this identified issue that churches need to think more about how they measure attendance going forward in a model where churches may be meeting online or via a hybrid solution. For example, how do you measure the number of people watching on one particular screen? Or how do you monitor the number of attendees when people on screens may connect and disconnect due to connectivity issues or briefly being focused on other activities? And all of these questions that are raised are going to result in sociologists of religions, digital theologians, and computer scientists rethinking how they do some of these more traditional methods. And so the point of my dissertation research wasn't to undo or to completely take away from those traditional methods, but rather to understand how can social media data, in this case Twitter data, complement those existing methods to make more reliable and more useful results. Starting in January 2022, I'm going to be starting postdoctoral research with the University of Turku, looking at prayer online, which will see me investigating a range of social media platforms, not just Twitter, to better understand how people pray online, how people talk about prayer online, and the role that digital theology might play in the prayer lives of Christian believers.